Here, make knock it off at your result
is no
stop.
result.
Hello. Welcome back to Analysis with Ro, where I'm your host, Ro, giving you the latest in all things analyzations, or anything that I feel like talking about. And we are back with another Hunter x Hunter analysis with the character that we've been analyzing for a bit, yours truly, Hisoka. We are still analyzing his childhood, and today we are talking about what I think is another important factor to his character, which is all about more so attachment theory and childhood attachment theory. So that's really what we're going to be talking about and alluding to today as I talk about all the possibilities of what might possibly be his attachment theory. We've kind of discussed it in an earlier podcast episode. The thing about it is, it's more so from his fiance's perspective. So now we're going to be analyzing it from his own perspective and starting with childhood. So we're going to break it down piece by piece. This is part 1 of that. We're going to do part 2 in teenhood, and then part 3 is going to be adulthood. Of course, for those of you that have been there for the last podcast episode that also discussed attachment theory, you might already know what it is or what I have theorized it to be. But for those of you that are new here, the theory of what attachment style that I think he most likely follows under would be that of a dismissive avoidant. So we are going to be discussing the early development of that and some other good stuff that I think will be all the more fun. So sit on back and let's go on ahead and enjoy this crazy ride that is early dismissive avoidant for Hisoka's character. Hello everybody. I'm glad that we are all here. Now let's go on ahead and discuss dismissive avoidance. Let's get down into it, right? So dismissive avoidance, what does it all mean? Well, for those of you that have not been here or have not been for the previous podcast episode in which we have talked about attachment styles before, we're going to get down into the meaning of what dismissive avoidance is again. And we're going to go into heavier detail for this episode, which I'm very much so grateful for, because this is all about dismissive avoidance. That's why we're all here. Dismissive avoidant attachment, otherwise known as avoidant attachment, is one of the 3 insecure attachments, the other 3 being anxious preoccupied, otherwise known as anxious, disorganized, otherwise known as, I'm pretty sure it's just disorganized. Oh no, fearful avoidant is the other one. And then you have the last one, of course, being dismissive avoidant. The other one in which it's like there's supposed to be 4 for some of you that have studied this theory before. The 4th one is secure, and that means you're completely healthy. If you're the other 3, you're not healthy. I'm sorry to say this, but it's very much true. You are not healthy. Something's not right. We need to get you to a therapist immediately, is what the other 3 mean. The one that's healthy is secure. That's why it's not included. That can significantly impact one's relationship to other people. So adults with this attachment style, they often resist intimacy and emotional closeness with parents, partners, and friends. They tend to place a high value on independence, frequently employing defensive strategies to avoid relying on others, in contrast to those who have more so of that anxious attachment. Again, it's all on a spectrum, so one could blend into the other, but normally dismissive and anxious don't typically blend unless it's somewhere in the disorganized category. That's something that just to keep in mind. But anyways, going back, they don't like relying on other people. In contrast with anxious attachment, they seek validation and connection from other people. So individuals who have avoidant attachment, which is more so on the opposite end of that spectrum, they tend to prioritize logic over emotion. They may come across as aloof, mysterious, lone wolf vibes, put it simple. And they often struggle to empathize. They suppress their own emotions and feelings and all that. And they tend to lack vulnerability when it comes to other people. So that's just all what dismissive avoidance means, right? So that's already a doozy, already a handful. Typically, we're going to keep going with this. These individuals, they self-regulate their emotions instead of seeking support. So in other words, it's all about me. Nobody else is going to help me with this. I got to figure my own shit out. If somebody else figures my shit out, something wrong with me is often the mindset when it comes to someone with dismissive avoidance. They don't want your help. Get away from me. That's the mentality, okay? They self-regulate instead of seeking support at all. Now, sometimes self-regulation is good. Nobody's saying it's bad. But often, again, with more so interdependent or securely attached, there will be moments in which you do need other people for help. But with avoidant attached people, they don't want that help at all. Even with times where it might be better to actually have that help, they ain't going to seek it out. They're not going to ask for help at all. They're going to be like, I got this. No, you don't. Yes, they do, according to them. They say they got it. They got it. They do not got it, but they gonna pretend. They're real good at pretending, which is a common thing with this character too. Keep in mind, real good at pretending. If nothing else you learn about this character, you're gonna learn one thing. Really good at pretending. Okay, let's keep going. It can lead to challenges such as addiction, because again, sometimes self-regulation is not healthy. Sometimes it could look like, drug issues of some kind, or keeping your mind preoccupied with something else, right? Because you got to control your own emotions, but there's some emotions where you just can't control it. So what do? You use something else to kind of curb it away or kind of suppress it. Drugs are a great suppressant. I'm not saying that as advice. I'm saying that as like general facts from other people. Right? From other people's life experiences. They use drugs to avoid the harder emotional aspects of life. And there's some things where it's like, it really is hard to deal with it on your own. Like mental illnesses, it's hard to deal with that on your own. So in order to appear just fine, some people, they use maybe alcohol. Some people, they use really anything else. Hard drugs, it's some people, they don't use drugs. Maybe they use food. Anything can be an addiction at the end of the day. Now, for this character, I do think we can discuss this addiction thing, but we'll discuss that in adulthood because I feel like it's more prevalent there. Just keep all that in mind. So they may deflect discussions, right? About difficult topics, and humor is a great deflector. We're going to talk about that with this character as well, as humor is often used as a mask. Another thing, and another important thing to keep in mind or to write down in your notebook if you are taking notes, is that just because someone's smiling does not mean they're happy. That's also a very important thing to remember, especially when it comes to this character, because we're going to learn that over time, that not all smiles represent joy per se. Yeah, that's another common thing in which you'll probably need to know. So the deflect discussions about difficult topics, have very hazy memory when it comes to childhood, and we do see that with this character, where anything alluding to the past, it's very hazy, it's very like, I rather not remember, or just straight up, I don't remember. There's other reasons in which he had discussed as to why that is, but dismissive avoidance is another reason as to that. And again, often a lot of the insecure attachments come from trauma, so most of the time it is trauma related to some degree. as they tend to avoid confronting those uncomfortable past experiences. So, again, going back to that, prefer not to discuss the past or uncomfortable emotions as a whole. So, just prefer to keep it behind, right? It's all vibes, it's all good joy and all good fun. With actuality, it's not good vibes, it's not good fun. You're hiding from the truth. Dark stuff. We'll get into that later. Just hold on to it, clench onto it, if you will. So while they may cling to idealistic views, they often harbor a deep-seated fear of being overwhelmed by others, complicating their emotional landscape and interpersonal relationships. So again, doesn't really vibe with other people, because vibing with other people means you trust other people. We don't trust people in this house. And I've thought about this before, right? How essentially with Hisoka's character, two sides of the same coin. One, if they sit and think about it, could say, oh, that might relate to you and your fiance. It's like two sides of the same coin when it comes to hypervigilance and distrust of others, right? It's just two different versions of that, but you're essentially showing the same thing, just in different ways. Hold on to that. Hold my hand, all right? We're going to hold on to that. Just know that we're cooking something when it comes to that. Okay? Okay. So again, just that ultimate distrust of other people. While they may cling to idealistic views, they often harbor what seems to be a deep-seated fear of people. Not really vibing, right? Not the vibe, not the wave. It just makes things difficult. So avoidant attachment can also intersect with other mental health issues. If we haven't alluded to that already, let's talk about it again, right? We have, first things first, depression. That's the first thing. Isolation, not good for the human brain. Us being alone, not that great. You could be alone every now and again. Not saying like, one cannot enjoy their own company. That's not what I mean. What I mean is complete isolation, right? No family, no friends, no nothing. Nothing that really alludes to healthy interaction with other people. You end up in complete isolation. Let's say, for example, solitary confinement. There's a reason why that's actually one of the worst punishments you could give to a human being, because solitary confinement can drive somebody insane. That's just not what humans were built for. We're social, right? We work best in groups. It's just our nature. Even the seemingly lone wolf type of guy, dude, whatever, being like, I'm an alpha lone male, this, that, and the fourth. It's like, no, you're not, okay? Because that's just not how humans are built. And it's based on the whole myth that wolves work that way, which, by the way, they don't. It's been disproven multiple times. Wolves are another social creature. They also work in groups. So, I guess, not even I guess, I know this for a fact. The scientists who originally created the study later said that they made a mistake with the whole lone wolf thing. Come to find out, that's not how wolves survive, and lone wolves often tend to die off faster in nature. So that's just another thing of the matter. But humans are kind of similar in the sense that we also work better in groups rather than just completely by ourselves. I would argue there's not a lot of creatures in nature that work completely on their own. They do exist, but there's not that many in the mammal category that work in that way. Humans are mammals, right? So that's probably why they compared it to a wolf, because a wolf is another type of mammal. A slightly different one, by all means, but a mammal nonetheless. Not a lot of mammals that work like completely on their own. Most of the mammals that are recognized, they often work in groups. So humans being alone, not a good thing, right? Just from a scientific perspective, it's not looking good if you're completely by yourself, no help at all. It means bad things for your brain at least. We also have trauma and PTSD from earlier relational wounds, which we have discussed and will continue to discuss. So this is pretty much like trauma from earlier experiences in life, of course, and PTSD. Of course, not everyone develops PTSD per se, but just trauma relations of some kind. and it ends up with these kinds of wounds and distrust of people, and then you have the mess that is dismissive avoidance. So that's just another intersection. And then we have ADHD related emotional regulation issues and challenges. So that's just another aspect in which we've discussed earlier. I won't go into heavy detail here. If you do want to discuss what might be those emotional challenges, go check out the ADHD or early ADHD episode. But just know that some of those issues that we've discussed there can also heighten dismissive avoidance and can therefore make things slightly worse. It also intersects with maybe conduct disorder, what's soon to be ASPD. All that intersecting just creates one lonely nigga. That's all that means. We have one lonely nigga on our hands, and that's not good at all. So all of those intersections therefore create the amalgamation, or one of the amalgamations, of dismissive avoidance in one's head. So now we got to ask the second question. Now that we know what it means, right? And the intersections that can come with that and how it develops, we got to go deeper into the development. So really, how does it develop? Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep going. How does avoidant attachment develop? Do tell me. Well, if I were to tell you, I would say that avoidant attachment develops when a caregiver is emotionally distant and unresponsive to a child's needs. Now, in the case of Hisoka's mom, hence why I'm going to talk about later on, he has secure tendencies. She was not that per se. It's not the distance by choice, right? In some cases in life, parents may not be distant by choice. Like, for example, sick parent. That's the one we talked about. That's most likely the case for him, dealing with a sick parent. Parent doesn't choose to be sick, right? It's like, oh, son or daughter, I chose to be sick with, for example, cancer someday. It's like your parent didn't choose that, right? That's not a choice. That's an accidental trauma. That's just shit that happens. Life be lifing, and it's not life in the right way for you, unfortunately. So that's just one of the things that happen. The distance and unresponsiveness more likely comes from his father, in which case the neglect of just not being there, period. So if we're going to talk about distance, it's not really distance. If caregiver's sick, it's like, your brain can translate it to distance even if it's not. But obviously the caregiver that is more distant would technically be his dad. So as a result, the child learns to suppress their desires for closeness and affection, recognizing that their needs are unlikely to be met at all. Again, with him, there's a little bit of a different circumstance with his mom in particular, but for his dad, yeah, for sure. Where it's just like, it's just one half that's gone, so have to fill in the gaps kind of thing. Kind of what we talked about a little bit when it came to Alumi, but it's significantly different, but filling in the gaps regardless. We're going to talk more so about it because he also has a style of parentification happening. There's different types. His is very different from his fiance's, but nonetheless it's present. So that leads to, again, that emotional detachment and a reliance on self-sufficiency. So the child may perceive intimacy, therefore, as completely uncomfortable and struggle with vulnerability in relationships. So this pattern can carry into adulthood, that in which we do see, and it could result in difficulties in forming healthy emotional connections and bonds. And that tendency to avoid closeness and trust in relationships is very much so present because, again, that's what dismissive avoidance is all about. Being dismissive and avoiding. And my God, we be avoiding people like a motherfucker. Like, we just be avoiding people. We don't want to interact. Don't talk to me. Get away from me is the mentality. It's insane. Yeah, that's just how it develops. That's how it is, right? And now we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the signs of avoidant attachment. So just stay tuned for the break. And we'll be right back soon.
You know something that everybody needs, neurodiverse and otherwise? A nice, comfortable place to sleep. Well, with Cozy Earth, they can provide that and so much more. with their comfortable bamboo sheet sets that provide cooling comfort and unparalleled softness, along with their very cute pajama sets that bring a cozy elegance to a night's in, it's sure to be the utmost, most luxurious sleep that you've ever had. For free shipping on orders over $50 and easy returns, you can get the utmost comfortable sleep with Cozy Earth. For more information, click on the link down below.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back from the break. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Now let's get into the whole sauce and now cheese of the matter. And let's discuss the signs of avoidant attachment. One of the first signs that we're going to be talking about is taking radical responsibility for their life. What does this mean, you're probably asking? Well, this basically means that they learn to only depend on themselves due to emotional hostility / negligent caregivers. So emotionally hostile / negligent caregivers are the reason in which they pretty much said, you know what, fuck it when it comes to other people. I'ma only depend on me. It's all about me in this bitch. Because you can't trust other people. You can't trust these other niggas around. It's just me. So I'm the only one on top of this game. Just me and me alone. All right. That's what they're saying. Tends to be judgmental towards those that ask for help is another thing. So let's say, somebody seems, to put it simply, weak according to them. We did see this later in Hisoka's adulthood, how that tends to prevail with his character. It's something we see quite frequently, honestly, where it's just like, oh, people below me, people that need help and shit, they are peasants compared to me. That's the mentality. Pretension. Put it simply. There ain't no other way of saying it. It is what it is, But yeah, number 2, feeling intense pressure in intense relationships. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, duh, it's intense. No, not what you're thinking. Back up. What this means is that when commitments are asked before they are ready, instead of being all like, you know what, not my thing, I ain't ready for that, they would cave in. Now, for this one, I would say there's more of a duality to it. One or two things does happen. They either cave in and just roll with it, right? So conflict avoidant. They rather avoid the conflict and just roll with the vibes. Or 2, they do say head on, you know what, I ain't feeling it. But they do it in a heartless manner. And I think for him, he's number 2. Where it's like, oh, he'll say no. Just don't expect him to be nice about it. It's like, you'll know if it's a no or not. It's just going to be in the most cruelest way known to man. And you probably thinking, why you gotta do all that? Because of the intensity. If it seems like 100 to them, that's what they're going to give you. 100 times the intensity. Even if you're more so asking for a 50 or 10%. Now you got all this fire on your plate. You didn't ask for no fajitas, but they came in hot and ready. It don't matter. They came in hot and ready. You weren't ready for fajitas, but they're here. And they don't care. Number 3, they feel more comfortable making major decisions by themselves rather than interdependent with others. So in other words, let's say that, for example, somebody wants to move away, but they got a partner or family. But let's just put partner for now, because family's even crazier, right? They got a partner. 1 or 2 things they would expect. It's like, oh, we moving. You ain't gonna tell us that we moving? Nope. You either take it or leave it. Either this person's got to come with the vibes and just straight up move, up in their life and just start a new one. No attachments, I guess. Or 2, it's like, well, if you ain't coming, I guess that's it. Bye. Crazy shit. It's like, I'm sorry. What? You made this major decision. You ain't gonna talk to nobody. It's like, what fuck I need to talk to anybody else for? It's me. It's my property. Mind you, there's other people by the side don't care. The other people say, we don't care. They ain't gonna stop this grind. We up and we moving. By ourselves. That's it. Whoop. School. So instead of talking to other people, they not gonna do any of that. They just go be like, and you know what? We up and we leaving. Okay. Number 4 meets practical needs with others, but not emotional ones, right? So they might care about others' emotional needs, but it's difficult for them to navigate. In other words, they do care about your feelings, but it don't seem that way because it seems solution based, right? So it's like, well, I see the problem, this is the solution, but maybe somebody's not ready for the solution yet. Or maybe they have to be guided through in a more so empathetic manner. They not gonna guide with no empathy. It's just gonna come in with the hammer. You gonna feel this burn. Feel the burn, feel the calories burning. And the workout's supposed to work out. That's the mentality. It's like, I don't give a damn about your feelings. We're gonna solve this problem, that's it. Your emotions be damned. It's like, is your emotions fixing the problem? To them, right? That's the mentality. Is the emotion fixing the problem? No, I don't give a fuck about no tears. Get your ass up and let's get to work. It's the whole, you know that one Kim Kardashian saying as of recent, where it's like nobody wants to work these days. That's the mentality that we're kind of dealing with. It started at a young age too. That's what's crazy. It's like nobody wants to fucking work these days. It's like, oh. It's like, I don't give a damn about your tears. Get up and get this work. It's very cold. It's like, I care, but at the same time, we gonna have to just fix this problem. That's it. Yeah. So anyways, let's get to working. And that's it. It's sad. We'll get into why it's sad. But like, sitting, looking from it, it's a journey. Hey, it's about the climb, ladies and gentlemen. And MBs alike. Number 5, outsources wants, but not practical needs. So positive self-perspective and negative other perspective. So in other words, what this basically translates to, what this means, is that they not only, again, we talked about how they tend to suppress needs with addictions of any kind or any materialistic valuable things. That's one of the ways that outsourcing wants but not practical needs can exist. But another way that it can exist is that you have more so of the mentality of, well, I gotta put me first. That's the mentality, right? It's like, I gotta put me first. You just gonna have to figure it out. Either you with me or you not. But I gotta put me first. Right? So again, that adds on to the materialistic value. Where it's like, but look at my stuff though. I gotta put me first. I don't really care because I'm okay. Are you okay? It's like, you not good. You crazy. But me, I'm okay. Now, I know you may be confused with this because it's like later in adulthood, didn't he say it's like, well, I'm crazy, but you crazier, right? So it's like, seems like self-awareness. Here's the thing, especially I learned about, and maybe I'll do a BoJack analysis entirely. Self-awareness is not enough. Yeah, somebody can say that and still be crazy. So just keep that in mind. You know what? You're gonna keep a lot of things in mind. We taking notes today, okay? Just gather your notebook because this is truly where things get a little confusing. It will be confusing. You just gonna have to sit for this one. It's gonna give you a headache. It's okay. I have a headache too. Number 7, let's keep going. Or number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lord. It's about the journey, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the climb. Number 6, when emotions are hurt, they simply withdraw. Doesn't work through them interpersonally. What that personally means, right? Personally, what that all means and boils down to is that, you know what? You hurt my feelings. So now I'm gone. You don't speak to me again. I go away now. It's like, huh? You're not going to talk about it? No. I disappear. I don't know. We were, let's say, in California. Now we're in Germany. Because I don't want to be next to you no more. Now, is it something as crazy as that? Maybe not, maybe. It depends. For this character especially, it's like, you know what? It depends. That could be a possibility. Hurt this nigga's feelings. Next thing you know, we in a different country. Or not even we. He in a different country. Why? He don't want to talk about it. So, we have a new life. Witness protection needs to hire his ass because he'll create a new life on dime. It don't matter. It don't matter. He'd be like, and we starting fresh again. Huh? Starting fresh? For what? Lord have mercy. Again, shit's gonna give you a headache. Lord. Number 7, struggles to find adequate independent partners, right? So when it comes to any relationship, but romantic especially, what that basically translates to is a lot of short-term relationships. Now, we're going to talk about that later in the last episode that we're going to discuss sometime soon, hopefully, and discuss that more in teen and adulthood. But a lot of short-term romantic relationships because, we just can't hold on to people like that, right? People, they come and go. They're not supposed to be in your life for a long time. Why would they be? You learn that even the best of people, they don't last. So it's easier to just let people go. Adequate independent partners, what that actually means is just any partner at all. It's like, it's best to just let people go. Why attach yourself? Why hold on? Just let it be. Number 8, very protective of their time and space, extremely attached to their routines. Now, it might not seem that apparent for his character, but you'll see later on as we analyze how actually this fits. So this is another one where it's like, just highlight that, keep that in mind. That is actually very important. Number 9, rarely feels emotionally vulnerable. Again, we're going to talk more so of this mask that he appears to have, where it seems like everything, is vulnerable and dandy. But just because a nigga be laughing and smiling in your face does not mean everything's okay. You got to keep that in mind. Put a pin on that. 2, number 10, shows love by not putting their needs on others. So in other words, you'll never know. And we're going to talk about the type of depression in which he most likely has, because, niggas be sad and you don't even know it. That one song by Tyler, the Creator, 911, go listen to it. It basically explains this character in a nutshell, in my honest opinion. But we'll get into that when we get into that. Just know that for now, put a pin on showing love by not putting their needs on others. So, vulnerability, what is that? It also goes into the whole back then episode in which we've discussed earlier for his character, where it also goes into the whole masculine standards that does fit to him. Masculinity and all that is like, what, niggas don't cry. Shit like that. It's like, it just keeps piling on until we end up with what seems to be this mess of a man. The fun just begun. The fun has just begun. So all of that is the signs of dismissive avoidance. So now I know what you're probably thinking, what you're probably asking. How did this develop specifically for him? What the hell happened for him to be this way? We're going to get into that. But we're going to also need to take another quick break, because I know this is a lot to take in. So I'm going to give you a minute to take notes, get some water, do whatever you need. We're going to come back and reconvene. And we're going to talk all about how did this all go down in the first place. So I'll see you guys in a minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back from the break once again, everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad that we have returned from the break once again. Now that we have taken time to compress and understand all that information that I just gave on to y'all, let's keep going. So, now that we're here, we can discuss how did this come to be for Hisoka, right? How did it truly develop for him specifically? enough of the general notes, right? We want to get down into the whole bone of the matter. So let's talk about it. So Hisoka's journey into avoidance seemed to have begun with the profound and heartbreaking loss of his mother, as we have previously discussed in other podcast episodes, right? That was a very pivotal moment in his life, and such a pivotal moment that likely shaped much of his emotional landscape. In her final moment, he found himself without any adult support, bearing the heavy burden of caretaker in what seems to be an already challenging situation. So we are already dealing with some heavy stuff, right? The loss, the grief, all of that already weighing on a young mind. It just keeps getting worse. The loss left him not only with grief-stricken or stricken mind, but also isolated him and left him to be pretty much homeless because there was no other adult to step up to the plate and take her place, right? There was nobody else really. So he was just kind of, again, left on his own. Yeah? Left on his own. Fundamental when it comes to dismissive avoidance. So bearing the heavy burden of caretaker when she didn't pass away yet, right? When she was about to, in her moments of sickness, it was the inverse. So we talked about like the different kind of parentification. His is more so instrumental, as it was discussed in a previous episode, where it was more so the practical aspects of parentification rather than the emotional aspects of it. So had to step in due to the fact that mom's sick, so who's going to take over? It's like the child, if nobody else is there to take over, the child will take the place of caretaker instead, out of survival, right? A lot of it is due to survival. That's another instrumental key when it comes to this character. It's like survival. You know, you got to do what you can in order to make it out. That's the mentality. You got to backstab a couple people. It's like, we got to do that because at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we, as in me, is okay. That's the mentality. So we're dealing with a challenging situation where it's like, you know, I got to make sure everything's okay at home. Make sure I got to do what I can for the parent that's still here. But, you know, life does what life does best. And life be life and not in the best way. That already felt like a loss when push comes to shove. Mom didn't make it. Now what? Right? So now we have difficult decision upon difficult decision that really no child should be making, but we have no choice to make because nobody else is going to be there as a guide. It's just us now. So that's where it kind of all began, right? Made then the difficult decision. So after being homeless, right? Also most likely made the difficult decision due to being homeless. It's like, well, I'm homeless. Most likely I've escaped foster care because, you know, foster care / the adoption industry, that in and of itself is a whole mess. One in which most likely this character did not want to be a part of. So guess what? It's like, I know what those adults do. I've already heard tales about it. It's like, I'm better off as a homeless child than, you know, whatever happens over there. It's like, I'll take my chances. I'll just raise myself. I was already kind of doing that, right? When mom ended up being sick, so I might as well just keep going. I'll just see what happens. But I'd rather that than whatever the fuck they do in foster care. So that was the mentality. Uncertainties, didn't like all that, so it's just decide to escape it. So when Marino then discovered him, what happened is it placed kind of this glimmer of hope, just a little bit, where it's like, you know what, maybe there'll be some food. It's just some basic necessities, because we're dealing with deep poverty, right? So this adult pretty much being like, you have talent, let's see where it takes you. It's like, that's an opportunity. What comes to find out later for his character is like, he is an opportunist. That is another aspect of his character. But again, that came out of survival. Survival. We have to be, is the mentality. It's like, there's no other option in this life. But to be an opportunist, you gotta take it how you live it. So when Marino came up, it's like, hey, this is an opportunity for us. This is a chance for us to make it out of the trenches and get it how we live it. So that's what ended up happening. However, what seemed to be this glittering world often demanded that he would suppress his childlike emotions and all this other stuff. So it's like, we got to grow fast again, right? We got to keep going when it comes to maturity faster than the average kid. It's like, we don't have time to be immature. We don't have time for that. So really, we just got to figure shit out like an adult would, whatever that means, because we don't actually know, right? We're just going to have to model what we see. So suppression of those childlike emotions is often what ended up happening. It's like these childlike emotions, childish needs, we're going to have to push that to the side. Vulnerability and honesty is a liability in the entertainment field. So now we're just going to have to keep all that shit to ourselves. We just going to have to, figure it out as an adult would at way too early of an age, because we're not an adult yet. By this time, he was around 12, 13? So a lot of the thoughts that he has is right now is probably the thoughts that no average kid should have at that age. Most kids, they do have parent support at that age. He did not. So now we learn that's it's either success or being back on the street. That's a scary thought for a child to have. That should not be the thoughts that a child has. But yet, it is his thoughts, because that's how life ended up being for him. And thus, the start of dismissive avoidance, it keeps getting worse or better depending on how you view it, right? So now, we're growing up as a child prodigy and this entertainer. Hisoka then faced immense pressure during his formative years. The fact that many adults around him struggled with envy. So we kind of talked about that last time. It's coming back. So that envy that we've discussed, rather than support, only compounded his challenges when it comes to trust of other people. Right? It's like learning all these other adults instead of doing what adults might typically do for a kid, which is support a child. The opposite happens, right? So now we really have to depend on oneself and nobody else. The fears, voicing concerns that he might steal the spotlight, failed to recognize the talent and potential within him, right? Underestimating him maybe. All of these thoughts and all of these sentiments, they isolated him further. That's all that it did. Forcing him to further retreat into solitude or finding solace only in the company of what we will later learn to be his foster sibling. Even though he wasn't in foster care per se, I nicknamed it foster sibling because that is the closest relational situation he has when it comes to Abagi, and of course Marino, which is his current guardian and manager. This atmosphere must have been incredibly lonely for a young boy like him, and it shaped the belief that dependence on others was therefore a complete risk he just couldn't afford. So all of what we have previously talked about within his childhood kind of era, him as a kid, it all compounds and all creates what will later be some core fundamental beliefs that he just keeps believing in even into adulthood. So that's the facts of the matter. Additionally, we also have what we will discuss in heavy detail the next episode, which is the pressures of being a so-called golden child in a very competitive and materialistic environment that is the entertainment field. It contributed to the sense of adultification, where so his own needs might have been, again, buried. We don't care about what children need. That's not what's necessary here, right? It's all about the money. So keep that shit to the ground. So now we have those needs suppressed. Again, that emotional suppression keeps coming back. Buried beneath the surface. behind expectations that others have placed on him. So we have the golden child thing. We'll discuss that in more detail in the next episode, but that's just another important thing to keep in mind. It's heart-wrenching to even consider how this might have deepened his feelings of invisibility and unheard experiences, leaving him to grapple with this sense of disconnect from oneself that we even see bleed into his adulthood. To keep it going and to complicate things even further, Hisoka then grew up surrounded by the harsh realities of crime in a place that's very reminiscent of Las Vegas, which is, of course, his home. That is Glam Glassland, Hunter x Hunter's version of Las Vegas. So the experiences he encountered there, gambling, theft, violence, and even possibly prostitution, are being surrounded by it. Now the question, at least within certain fandom areas within the fandom, is, was he involved in it? I do not think he was involved in it as a child, but being surrounded by it is also a trauma in and of itself. Being surrounded by adult material too young of an age in and of itself is traumatizing. You don't have to experience it yourself. Just being exposed to it is enough for children to be traumatized. Prostitution, even if not directly involved, just being around it is enough to alter the brain. Were not just difficult, but they were formative. They exposed him to the darker sides of life far too early. A traumatic encounter on the street before even meeting Meritno only added to his struggles, right? It only illustrated the death, the danger, and the betrayal that he has faced and will face in future time. Each of these experiences have fortified Hisoka's walls. They create this deep sense of what seems to be mistrust that permeates his ability to connect with other people. Now, it's understandable that he ended up developing a dismissive avoidant attachment style as a means to completely protecting himself from further pain. These layers of pain and isolation reflect a deeply human response to an overwhelming world, a poignant reminder of the complexities that is his life journey. And that really, to me, what seems to be what caused his dismissive avoidance. Now, to end things, Hisoka's early interpersonal experiences significantly shaped his character and his psychological development. His childhood was marked by neglect and misunderstanding, leading to a complex personality and a distorted view of intimacy and trust. These formative relationships have therefore influenced Hisoka's later interactions, revealing a conflict between his desire for connection and that fear of vulnerability. Betrayal or disappointment may have fostered his manipulative behavior and other more maladaptive behaviors as a defense mechanism, while genuine connections heightened his emotional responses, resulting in what seems to be the erratic behaviors that we see even in his adulthood. By examining in the next episode Hisoka's relationships with family and peers during his upbringing, we can also gain insight into the factors driving his complex personality. So understanding these other influences is crucial to comprehending his current motivations and behaviors, illustrating how these early dynamics, which we will discuss in the next episode, can shape an individual's psyche. But that truly is all for discussing how it came to be, right? So we learned that all the traumas that we were talking about and the other podcast episodes we're talking about, you compound that all together, that also creates dismissive avoidance. Now we're going to see in the next episode even more of how it came to impact Hisoka's life and then later impact how he interacts with other people overall. So we're going to talk about interpersonal relationships the next episode. We're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to talk about his relationship to Meritno and Abaki and all the early relationships he had as a kid. We won't discuss, the only relationship that we won't talk about is his mom, and of course his dad is non-existent. was not in the picture at all, so there's not much to talk about. The only thing we would talk about is like the absence of, but we kind of already talked about that ad nauseum, so I don't want to do that again. As far as Hisoka's mom goes, we've also talked about her, so we are going to put her on the shelf for now. We'll come back to her later, but for right now, we're going to put her on the shelf because we have already discussed his relationship to his mom, or the possible relationship to his mom. So we'll keep that on the shelf. We are going to talk about Meritno. We're going to talk about Abaki. We're going to talk about all this stuff that happened, and in the pre-canon, see how that pertains to him as a whole. There's certain other adults that he interacted with, but they're not as important. The fundamental relationships that are important is Abaki and Meritno, so we are going to discuss them. But yeah, that truly is how dismissive avoidance, what it means, how it developed for him. We talked about all of that. We went really deep at the last moment, Some of you might have gotten a couple tissue boxes out, for the next episode. It's like, keep it out. We might have some tissue boxes again. We might have our moments. It's what I'm learning. It's like I've learned to empathize with this character in ways I did not expect. That's one of the main things I've gathered from this study. It's like, I've touched upon so many things I didn't think I would have to, but, that's what you get for going below the surface. You get a beautiful layer of somebody's complex story that you would not think that you would end up having if you were to judge by the surface. But that's what we don't do in this channel. We don't judge by the surface. We go deeper. That's what's so fun about it. So, yeah, that is everything for today. I do want to go over some house rules for the end before I dismiss the council, of course. For those of you that aren't council members, what are you doing? Remember to go on ahead and like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or like and follow if you're on any other podcast streaming platform, right? If you're on Spotify, like and follow. If you're on Apple Podcasts, like and follow. If you're on iHeartRadio, make sure to like and follow. Just like and follow everywhere, right? We want to increase the council members. We want to get the council bigger. Hopefully get it to 1,000 council members so we can have a bit more fun on here and have even more fun meetings and interesting interactions. So yeah, just going ahead and remember to join. We don't bite. The council is a civil government. There's no biting here, no biting involved. The next episode, of course, is interpersonal relationships. That will be the main theme in which we discuss. Another thing is, for the next episode, we're going to talk even more about it. The sponsorship for that one, I'm just going to do a quick spoiler, but not really. It will be mostly about my Patreon, because the next episode is the last one for the childhood era, childhood arc, if you will, for this podcast analysis. We will be moving into Unit 2. So we'll be talking more about the Patreon, because after the last episode, we are going to switch to Secession Monday, which is a very fun and beautiful series in which I discuss into very heavy detail some of the themes and main points and even the story of the Secession War arc within Hunter x Hunter. So I hope you guys all have enjoyed this episode, and I will see you for the next episode. And again, please make sure to like and subscribe / follow and tell your friends about the council, because again, we're trying to have the government, the council of the matter, grow. You need more senators here, so go on ahead and join. All right, guys, I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.